of a marriage between Remy Ma and Papoose. Y'all let these blouse get out here and call me a liar. Y'all let them get out here and call us a liar. I was long out here standing 10 toes down that there was something going down between them, and I heard from both of their teams. Even got cease and desist from Papoose.
Everyone had to pause for a moment because what followed completely tore apart one of the biggest celebrity stories the internet had come to believe. This wasn't just gossip or a passing rumor, but the real-time breakdown of a messy love triangle, and the moment it started falling apart was impossible to miss. For months, Claressa Shield was loud, confident, and completely unbothered, openly declaring that she had taken another woman's husband, constantly repeating, "That's mine," without any hesitation. She made no attempt to hide it or tone it down, instead proudly displaying him across live streams, interviews, and headlines, keeping him at the center like a prize. In doing so, she built an entire fantasy around a married man and presented it to the public as if it were a perfect fairy tale. People couldn't look away as the internet turned everything into non-stop drama, picking apart every post and public moment. But the illusion didn't slowly fade, it completely collapsed. New claims started spreading, and Claressa allegedly confirmed what people had already been whispering about. Now the situation looks very different, with Claressa's moment seemingly over and Remy Ma back in control. Reports suggest the man Claressa once called her forever quietly packed up, left without warning, flew back to New York, and returned to his wife. There was no closure or explanation, just one day he was there, and the next he was gone, leaving Claressa with unanswered calls, confusion, and the internet watching the fallout unfold in real time. Then the story started taking a more uncomfortable turn. People began claiming Claressa wasn't just dating him, but actually imitating his wife. Her style, jewelry choices, travel spots, even poses in photos started looking strangely familiar. Online fans quickly split, some brushed it off as coincidence, while others called it obsession and copying. Things escalated further when she allegedly tattooed a married man's name on her body, and social media reacted almost instantly. At the same time, Claressa seemed to be spiraling in public view, while the contrast on the other side was striking. Remy Ma stayed composed and out of the noise, sharing family holidays, keeping her wedding ring visible, and posting quiet family moments without any explanation. Same home, same marriage, same man, no interviews, no drama, just silence. Then a final claim emerged. Tasha K reportedly said Claressa was never the main figure in this story, never the future, never the chosen one, just a brief distraction while a marriage was quietly being repaired behind closed doors. What followed wasn't just heartbreak, but a harsh reality check as the fantasy completely fell apart. Attention then shifted to how Claressa seemingly lost control, how Papoose allegedly managed both sides, and how Remy Ma pulled off a quiet, strategic comeback. What started as a bold love story has now turned into one of the messiest public downfalls the internet has seen.
Spilling wine. And so y'all ain't got the audacity to let me know at 2 o'clock in the morning that Remy Ma is online crashing out over her. The only problem is she crashing out with the wrong one, okay? Because Claressa, bring Remy Ma versus Claressa.
For months, Claressa carried herself on social media with a sense of confidence that made her seem untouchable, as if her reality couldn't be questioned or broken. But behind that image, pressure was quietly building. She wasn't hiding anything or acting embarrassed. If anything, she seemed fully convinced she had already won. To her, it wasn't just about love, but about pride, attention, and the feeling of claiming a man who already had a wife. Every post, caption, and live appearance reinforced the same message: he's mine. The public didn't just observe, they analyzed, argued, and became fixated on every detail. What could have stayed private instead turned into a public spectacle involving a married man, his well-known wife, and a third figure building a fantasy in front of millions. At first, people saw it as messy online entertainment, something dramatic to watch and forget. But then the tone started to change. What once looked like confidence began to resemble obsession. Claressa wasn't just claiming him anymore. It started to feel like she believed she actually owned him. Each post became bolder, each move more intentional. Behind the filters, likes, and attention, something more unsettling was taking shape. According to circulating claims, the relationship Claressa thought was secure was never truly stable. While she celebrated what she believed was a victory, the marriage she assumed was over never actually ended. Remy Ma never lost her position. And as Claressa built a loud, attention-filled fantasy online, the reality behind the scenes told a very different story. Remy stayed quiet and rebuilt her life away from the spotlight while Claressa kept putting on a public show for the cameras. Over time, what looked like confidence started to feel staged, and cracks in the story became harder to ignore. When Tasha K finally stepped in and said what others were only hinting at, the narrative shifted fast. People had already started questioning whether the relationship was ever real or just for show. Then a live broadcast changed everything with a single statement, and the internet suddenly stopped and paid attention as the illusion began to collapse. According to Tasha K, the luxury Claressa was showing off online wasn't actually coming from him, but allegedly from her own money. The designer bags, jewelry, and surprise gifts seen on camera were claimed to be self-funded. The allegation suggested she bought the items herself, handed them to him, and then let him gift them back to her on camera. What looked like romance was reportedly more staged than real, carefully arranged moments made to appear natural. Suddenly, the narrative shifted, and what once looked like a love triangle started to feel like something more calculated and unsettling than anyone first believed. Performance built on illusion and presentation, what once looked like a love story began to resemble a carefully managed public act. It was no longer about real emotion, but about maintaining an image. The internet quickly rewound everything, pulling up old clips and spreading screenshots within minutes. Moments that once seemed romantic now appeared staged. The pauses, the stiff reactions, the forced smiles, all starting to look rehearsed. Then a disturbing question began circulating. What if Claressa wasn't the one being chosen, but the one being used? According to the same claims, the man she believed she had secured was not only emotionally distant, but also financially dependent. The allegations even suggested this pattern wasn't something new at all. Sources claimed this pattern existed long before Claressa. Allegations of borrowed luxury, recycled gifts, and expensive items reportedly funded by women who believed in him. The setup was said to repeat in cycles: a married man, different women, and a lifestyle sustained by whoever was convinced at the time. Gradually, a clearer picture formed, suggesting Claressa wasn't an exception but just another chapter in the same pattern. While she shared her love story online believing she was in control, something different was happening behind the scenes. The marriage many thought was over was quietly being repaired. While Claressa stayed focused on building an image for the cameras, Remy Ma and her husband were quietly rebuilding their real relationship away from public attention. There were no statements or interviews, just silence and private movement. The first noticeable shift reportedly came without warning, as sources claim Papoose quietly packed his bags, booked a one-way flight to New York, and stepped out of Claressa's life with no farewell post or explanation. One day he was there, and the next he was gone. As that silence grew heavier, Claressa tried to keep up appearances, staying active online, going live, and posting with confidence as if nothing had changed. Her behavior began to shift, first in small ways like missed calls and unanswered messages that started to build over time. Then it became harder to ignore. Her smiles began to look forced, captions more rehearsed than natural, and the confidence she once displayed started to feel strained. Online observers quickly picked up on these changes and began drawing comparisons: similar outfits, jewelry choices, poses, and camera angles. What once looked like coincidence started to fuel speculation, with some claiming she was closely observing Remy Ma and mirroring her style. In more extreme online discussions, people suggested obsession, though these remained unverified claims. A reported tattoo tied to a married man intensified the conversation, sparking backlash and interpretation of emotional fixation. Meanwhile, public appearances and family imagery shared online were seen by many as quietly ending speculation without any direct statement. When final confirmation surfaced online, the illusion collapsed completely. What seemed like a fairy tale or takeover turned different. According to circulating claims, she funded and maintained her narrative. She performed a public relationship while a marriage quietly recovered. She lost control emotionally and publicly as perception shifted. Remy Ma's silence spoke louder than any posts. The real wife was never replaced or removed. The story was not a love triangle but a distraction. Her downfall built gradually and became visible online. Live sessions grew defensive and her image crumbled. Holidays revealed he was with his family. Without explanation needed, that's when the internet's tone changed. What had once been treated like gossip started to feel unsettling. People weren't amused anymore. They were concerned. It no longer looked like a breakup, but something closer to abandonment. Yet Claressa still didn't seem to accept it. She kept defending him, standing by him, and claiming him as if loyalty alone could preserve something that had already ended in every meaningful way. Then Tasha K stepped back into the conversation, not gently and not with sympathy, but with a blunt warning. "He's playing you." That single line changed the tone instantly. It wasn't loud or dramatic, but it was sharp because quiet truths often land harder than noise. Even Clarissa's supporters hesitated. Tasha K wasn't necessarily attacking her, but pointing to what circulating reports described as a carefully constructed relationship. The allegations suggested Claressa may have financially carried much of it herself, including luxury items later displayed online as gifts. One detail that stood out was a receipt allegedly showing she purchased a designer bag, which was then later presented back to her on camera as if it were a surprise gift. Once this claim spread, perception shifted fast. Viewers began rewatching old clips, reevaluating every moment, and questioning how much of what they saw was real, while a different story started forming behind the scenes.